You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. This week, my guest is former P.F. Chang CEO, Damola Adamolekun. As a teenager, Damola remembers having dinner at P.F. Chang's before his high school's homecoming. Fast forward to 2019, Damola is working at legendary investor John Paulson's hedge fund, where he pitched the idea to buy P.F. Chang's. Paulson did the deal, he bought P.F. Chang's in 2019, and named Damola CEO in 2020. Damola took over as CEO during the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic, a challenging and pivotal time for any business, let alone a restaurant in 300 locations globally. He steadied the ship and led P.F. Chang's and its 20,000 team members through a variety of monumental strategic initiatives. For his efforts, Damola was named one of the most innovative and inspiring leaders in the restaurant industry. P.F. Chang's recently celebrated its 30th anniversary and continues to delight millions of customers worldwide. Damola and I recorded the conversation you are about to hear a few weeks ago, while he was still CEO at P.F. Chang's, and prior to the company's recent announcement that he was stepping down as CEO. In our conversation, Damola shared a candid, behind-the-scenes look at the leadership mindsets and philosophies he put in action to power one of the world's most iconic brands to new heights. You'll hear actionable lessons on how to manage during times of disruption, communicate a clear vision, achieve quick wins to build momentum, and so much more. This episode is filled with so many powerful ideas, and it will get you hungry to take on your next big challenge. I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's pull the tarp and get straight to former P.F. Chang CEO, Damola Adamolekun. Damola, where I want to begin, I want to go back a few years. As a teenager, you have dinner at P.F. Chang's before your high school homecoming event. And you fast forward a few years, you're working at a hedge fund where you pitched the idea to the legendary John Paulson to buy P.F. Chang's in 2019. I'm curious, Damola, what initially attracted you to the brand from a business and an investor perspective?
Well, the first thing is exactly what you just said. The experience that people have with the brand is pervasive, right? If you kind of look at the awareness of the brand, the experience, everybody knows P.F. Chang's and everybody kind of has a story like that. Have been there at some point, has had a birthday dinner. So it's such a core piece of American culture, and it's so well known and so well regarded that was the first thing, is just how strong the brand was, right? The second thing is, with any investment, there's something that exists, and then there's the potential, right? And the potential we thought was even more massive. If you looked at what could be done from investing in the guest experience to the off-premise dining, which didn't really exist when we bought it, and we've built it since. So the foundation was there in terms of a great brand and a great product, and there was a long runway in terms of what you could do to further improve the guest experience, build an off-premise dining, open new restaurants. So we just thought it was a great opportunity and a business that could be, an even more successful business going forward.
How much convincing did you need to do of your team to invest in the business? Did they fall right in line with your gut instincts about this?
John's a brilliant investor. He's very logic-based. So once you could present, there's a few things. Number one, you can do a lot of work to kind of figure out what the opportunity is in something like off-premise dining, because other companies have done it successfully, right? You can look at, there's examples out there. You can look at Chipotle. I spoke to the chairman at Domino's. You look at these examples of people who built the infrastructure to drive an off-premise dining business, and you can extrapolate what's possible for a brand like this, right? Number one, the cuisine is Asian cuisine, right? People already ordered Chinese delivery. It's not a new behavior you have to teach anybody. We just didn't have a way to do it. You can order food on our website. There was no app, right? So it's pretty easy to draw the line of, if you make it easy for people, something they already do, a brand they already know, this should be successful, right? And if it is successful, how big can it be? Again, you can look at the industry. How much people ordering Chinese? What's the dollar, volume of the industry? What kind of share do you need to take to make it meaningful? What have other people done in other industries, right? Because pizza and Chinese are the top categories for delivery. So there's enough you can do in terms of drawing a very clear investment thesis, which we did. I presented it to John, I presented it to the team, but it was all very logic based. It all kind of made sense. It didn't require a big leap of imagination. It was just kind of working with what's possible when we did the deal.
There's the logic and the thought behind it and all the data, and then there's the execution. And you're in the thick of execution now, Damola. And I'm curious, so how do you go from an investor, presume board member on the deal to the company's CEO in about a year?
Not intentionally. It wasn't the plan. So, I did the deal, and to your point, I was an investor, right? So my role was to come up with the investment thesis and pitch good ideas to, my bosses, John, and the other partners at Paulson. And then we brought in a CEO to execute, right? Which is kind of how these things generally go. So what I'll say is, in the first year, we put a lot of the foundational pieces in place to execute on the thesis, working with the CEO that was on the ground. Now, I'm still responsible for the deal, right? So in New York, John's calling me and, what's going on here? What's the progress here? What's happening there? So despite not being on the ground running the company, I was very interested in what was happening, right? And making sure that things were progressing and that we were advancing on all of our initiatives. And what I learned very quickly is, you can call people from New York and send emails and things will progress a little bit, but showing up is the best way to get anything done, right? So I just started showing up to Scottsdale to ask those questions in person and to get people in meetings and to sit down with people. And I had a really good relationship with the CEO, so it wasn't unwelcome, right? I was here to help and in a very sort of cordial way. And so that, I think, it plugged me more directly into the operations of the business in the first year, not with the intention of becoming CEO, but just with the intention of helping get things done, right? I told John Antioco, the CEO at the time, that I'm here to help you get things done, right? Anything, because he was focused on the nuts and bolts operation. I'm focused on technology, digital, off-premise dining. So it was helpful for him just to have me kind of run with some of these things, and he could focus on the core. So we had that good dynamic. They made me chief strategy officer in the first year. Antioco more or less said, if you're going to be here all the time, you need a title. You can't just be the owner. So I was chief strategy officer working with Antioco. And then during COVID, he needed to take a step back, right? He was older, couldn't travel and do some of the same things during COVID. So, we had a situation where we needed a CEO to step in April of 2020. So not the ideal time. I was close enough to the business already. I spent a year coming out every week from New York, knew everybody, knew what was going on, and knew what we needed to do. So they asked me to step in, and that's what I did.
April 2020, not the ideal time to be stepping in as the CEO of a major restaurant and hospitality business. I'm curious, Damola, looking back on that moment, do you find that the chaos and the crisis and all the challenges that were presenting themselves in April of 2020, did it give you an opportunity to galvanize folks as the new CEO and get the business pointed in a direction that you wanted to go? Was it galvanizing?
It was. I mean, it's scary though, right? It's existential. Like the restaurant industry was going through an existential crisis. In retrospect, it worked out okay, but at the time, nobody knew. All the restaurants were closed. You couldn't even serve anybody in any restaurant, right? And the way restaurant P&L works, like our dine-in was, 3/4 of the business at the time. You take that away and that goes to zero. How does that work out? Can you even keep the restaurants open? Can you pay people? Can you pay your leases? These were all real questions for the entire industry at the time, right? So it was scary, but to your point that when you're in an existential sort of crisis situation, it forces action, right? And things need to be decided quickly and they need to be done quickly, right? So everybody's galvanized to act, right? What you need to present is a clear plan, a very clear plan. Like, this is what the situation is. I communicated transparently. These are the issues. This is where we sit. This is what we need to do to survive. And for us, we needed to grow the off-premise business because that's all we could do, right? So that needed to grow significantly. How are we going to do that from a marketing perspective? How are we going to serve these people in the restaurants? How are we going to do takeout so it's more efficient? You can serve more people. So we needed a plan to drive the off-premise business. We needed a plan to manage expenses, to deal with some of the unique issues that COVID presented with workforce, et cetera. And so you recognize that, you present a plan, and then you move quickly, and people they appreciate the direction and they want to help in a situation like that, right? So you can galvanize the troops and move quickly and redirect the company, which, we were able to do.
I'm curious, Damola, how do you, as a leader and as a company, how do you balance two very important and now very successful things, right? You've built the off-premise business. Maybe it was accelerated by COVID, even though you had started working on it before COVID. And now post-COVID, you have a thriving in-restaurant dining experience again. How do you balance the two as a leader and as a team, even tactically speaking, at the restaurant, to make sure that one doesn't distract the other and create issues that way?
Great question. I'll say that when we bought the business, another question would be, why hadn't they done it before? Right? Like, everybody knows delivery is a thing. We bought this business in 2018, not 2008, right? The delivery wasn't new. And the reason they hadn't done it before is exactly what you just said. The company viewed itself as a dine-in business, not an off-premise business. And so they viewed the off-premise thing as sort of annoying, for lack of a better word, right? Like a thing they had to deal with, but nobody really wanted to. So you have to first change the mindset. How do you view it? Right? If you view it as an annoying thing nobody wants to deal with, and the management accepts that as the position of the company, then nobody's going to embrace it, right? So the first change is we needed to view it as an opportunity, not a hindrance. Like, this is an opportunity. If you can keep the dine-in business and double the off-premise business, the entire restaurant does better, which lets you invest in more people, which lets you invest in the experience. So getting this right helps the entire business. The first thing is a mindset shift that needed to happen within the organization to view it as something good that could help. And once you get there, then your second question is a good one, which is tactics, right? So you need to make it easy tactically. You can't. So, for example, when we started doing off-premise dining, there was no separate entrance for people to come in and pick up food in the restaurant. So they come in through the lobby, same as the guest who's coming to dine in. Now that's a problem, right? Because you have people waiting for a table, and you got a DoorDash person coming in, running them over. It's chaos, right? And that's part of why they didn't like it, because it makes it, messy in the restaurant. Okay, so it doesn't mean you can't do any off-premise dining. You just need to solve that problem, right? So you create a second entrance separate on the side. People come in for deliveries there. They don't interact with the guests who are there for dine-in. Their food's ready, waiting. You've got shelves, somebody there to staff it. Now, all of a sudden, it's not an operational issue anymore, right? It's cleaner. There's no conflict. And then the resistance will drop, right? So part of the resistance is mindset, and part of it is it's hard. So if you make it easy and change the mindset, then you can get people to embrace it and show that it's beneficial to them, right? And show examples of people doing it well. So we got there, and now it's both, right? You run two businesses. The people who run our restaurants have two businesses, right? You want to deliver a great dine-in experience for people who come to the restaurants, and you want to deliver a great off-premise business. Now, what that means are different things, right? Because when you come in to a restaurant to eat, you want the experience, you want fun, you want to enjoy, you want cocktails. When it's delivery, you want it fast, you want it on time, you want it to arrive hot. So you have to understand what people are looking for in each channel, and you need to deliver that, and they don't need to conflict, right? It's not like running a good off-premise business means you have to sacrifice on dine-in. Just run them both, in an excellent way, and then the guests can choose what they want, and you're there for them. So it's certainly a mindset shift, but we've done that, and now both businesses run very well, and it's helped the overall company do a lot better.
You talked a few minutes ago about keeping things simple. When you're trying to simplify something and you're trying to make progress, how important is a quick win? Like being able to prove that step 1A has gone well. Like, how do you think about that?
Hey, listen, people are smart, right? And so they'll be evaluating as you go. The first step is to lay out a plan, and people will assess the plan and decide whether they like it or not. But they'll comply nonetheless, because organizationally that's what it is. But if you launch a plan and it's not working, and people can see it's not working, they'll be more resistant to it, of course, right? Because people have eyes and they're looking, right? So there's change management that's necessary. So you launch a plan, off-premise is our focus. It's really important. Then, you have to manage change as you go through. And you need to highlight examples of, for example, I had one restaurant in McAllen, Texas, where the operator just really took to off-premise dining. He wanted to do his own deliveries. We set up a self-delivery for him, thought it was a huge opportunity, and he's off and running. That restaurant used to do 70, 80K a week. And within a year was doing 120K a week. And then he just added the off-premise business to a dine-in business. But he ran it, he was marketing it. He was in the neighborhood. He was leaving flyers. And so you elevate a guy like that and show people what's possible, right? And say, look at Tom and McAllen. He went from doing 70K a week to 120K a week, and this is how he did it. And this is how it works. And the other key thing is, we started compensating our restaurant managers based on the performance of the restaurant. in terms of bonus, right? So they get a bonus based on how the restaurant does. So Tom went from making X dollars to making Y dollars, right, based on his restaurant improvement. And so that's another thing people will look at and say, if I can achieve something similar, there's something in it for me as well, right? So yeah, you got to, you want to hold up. It's when you run an organization that's this large and there's so many restaurants, there's going to be outliers, right? And people will do things really well. And depending on what the thing is, there's going to be a different restaurant that's doing it really well. The best thing you can do is elevate those people and show people what can be done and have them explain it. Like, how are you doing it? Have them explain, how they're approaching it. And then everybody can kind of lift up their level and try to match that.
Damola, I'm over here smiling, thinking about Tom and McAllen. He sounds like a tarp puller.
Yeah.
Like I talk about every week. Everybody pulls the tarp. Here he is managing the restaurant. He wants to make his own deliveries. He's out there marketing it. It's powerful stuff. And like you said, if you see it in action and you can elevate that and make sure others see it, it really does simplify things. With such a large organization, 20,000 plus employees, over 300 locations, how do you, as a leader, balance? One of the things I've always been curious about is, as a leader, how do you balance creating a consistent experience for the customer, but also giving the individuals at the local restaurant the opportunity to add their own approach or add their own perspectives to something? I mean, there's got to be a balance, right?
Yeah, for sure. You can't have 200 restaurants, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, because then you don't have a brand. Like, what does it mean to be P.F. Chang's? Well, it depends. What city you're in, what state you're in, who's right. You can't have that, right? People need to know what to expect when they come into a restaurant. That means menu, that means service, that means experience, broadly, right? So the first thing to do is to nail the experience that you're training and teaching and make that the best experience possible, right? Number one. Now, that being said, there's going to be opportunities for nuance, right? And that comes in the form of, I don't know, let's say you have a certain market that celebrates a certain day more than others. Maybe they can lean into that day, right? For example, Mexican Mother's Day is huge in some of our states, not so much in others. But in the states where it is, we can lean in a little bit and make that more of a focus, right? So there's nuance in terms of what the regional dynamics are. There's nuance in terms of how you market in a certain demographic or a certain market, right? So those things are there. And then you have people that you give people leeway to take care of the guest. And we call it ODE, optimal dining experience. But the manager of the restaurant has some leeway to evaluate a situation with a certain guest and take care of it the way that seems best to them, right? Because every guest is different, right? So you build a system that's good, that works, an experience that's great, and then you give people certain pockets of leeway to manage based on where they live and what the market's like and what's going on with the specific guest.
How do you get people enthusiastic and excited about really focusing on the little details that end up really having a massive impact, right? It would seem to me that you're such a thoughtful guy. The brand, has such a great brand globally. There's so many little things that happen that people maybe don't even realize. From the minute you walk up to a restaurant, to the moment you open the door, till the minute someone greets you, till they walk you to a restaurant, till they hand you menus. How do you get people excited about those little things that, when you add them all up, make a massive difference?
Attention to detail is probably one of the most important things in the restaurant and in life, really. I was going to say the restaurant industry, but that's true beyond the restaurant industry. Just like you said, the little things, whether you're in school, whether you're working in finance, whatever you're doing, the little details are what ultimately make you successful. And that's certainly true in the restaurant business. I'd say, number one, getting the right people is key, right? Because if you have people that really care and want to be great, they'll be more likely to pay attention to the details. So getting the right people in the organization, first of all, is the best thing you can do to get yourself on the right start. And then you need to highlight these things and train them, because a lot of people might not notice. They might not know. They might not know they're waiting too long to greet a guest, or they might not know what their metrics are. So you need to track these things and you need to show people. If you have the right people and you're showing them where they can be better, most of them are going to want to be better and take that and run with it. And then finally, you want to, especially in a large organization, you need data across the organization, because otherwise you won't know where your issues are, right? Because it can't all be anecdotal. It can't just be like, oh, I heard this, I heard that. Like, you want statistics, right? So take time to, get a drink to the table. Like, we can track that now. We didn't used to be able to, but now we can. So you can tell a restaurant how long they're taking to get a drink and how they stack up to the organization, right? Your top 10%, your bottom 10%. You're right in the middle, but you can still be better, right? So then you can manage individual areas of the operation, right? And compare them fairly to everybody else, right? And to other companies as well, in some cases. So that's it. But you're spot on. I mean, you don't wake up overnight and deliver a great experience. You have to improve all these little things and get your drink times better, get your greet times better, get your script better, train the hosts better, the chefs, right? Like there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people involved to deliver the experience to the guests. And it all has to, it's like a symphony, right? It all has to work together. And the operating manager is the conductor, right?
Absolutely. The symphony. It's a great example. And the operating manager is the conductor, Damola. That's a great visual. How do you get everybody at the restaurant to realize how important their role is, right? I mean, maybe the guest is interacting with the person at the host stand and then the waiter or waitress and then somebody who's bringing out the food. But there's so many people behind the scenes. There's cooks, there's busboys, there's people washing dishes, there's people cleaning the place, there's people power washing the sidewalk outside. How do you get everybody to understand just how important that their role is?
You tell them. Listen, people want to be appreciated. You know, that's an important part of human nature and human psyche, right? People are willing to work hard, but they want to be appreciated for their work. So as a leader, that's your words carry a lot of weight. Recognizing people, going to visit the restaurants, sitting down with the market partners, highlighting people who've done a really good job, that all goes a really long way, right? And it's not hard. So that's the number one. I mean, you want people to feel appreciated, let them know they're appreciated, right? And you show that and you express that. And then I also really believe in rewarding people who do a great job, right? So you need to align the rewards structure to focus on the things you care about, right? And so if somebody, I use Tom as an example, but he was rewarded financially as well as through appreciation for the great job he did, right? And that makes him want to do even better the next year, right? So it's a good question, but it's communication, it's highlighting, it's appreciation, and it's making sure people benefit from the work that they do.
Well, PF Chang's is celebrating its 30th anniversary, and that's a long time for any business. And I still feel like the best days of PF Chang's are ahead, and I'm sure you do as well. What do you think has been the key to PF Chang's navigating and adapting and adjusting over a long period of time to stay relevant, stay successful, and stay high trajectory?
The key is, Philip Chang came up with a really good idea. Let's start there. The initial concept is brilliant from Philip and Paul Fleming, who founded the company 30 years ago. And so that's the number one thing. A lot of the dishes we have today were there when Philip started the company. Let's say that. So a lot of credit needs to go to him and the initial founders of the company, because it's had a lot of owners since, right? But the food's been consistent. The experience, it's always been experience focused, right? More or less, depending on the owner, we're more focused on it. But that's been there from the start. The idea that you could deliver a wonderful meal with a great experience and great service, right? That was Philip's concept from the beginning. And the brand, people just have had great experiences over the years, right? So people come back for that brand resonance. So different owners, different approaches, slightly different tweaks in terms of strategy, but food, experience have been remarkably consistent. And that's, I think, the key to long-term success.
Well, I want to pivot a little bit. I want to dig into your story a bit and what makes you tick and powers what's been and continues to be an extraordinary successful career for you. I know you start your day early. You start it with a run.
Yeah.
What time do you start? How much do you run? And like, what role does that play in kind of starting your day off successfully?
Yeah, I'm up at 4. And for me, I've always been up early. I played sports growing up, and I played sports in college, and then I was in investment banking. Like, it's always been a lot of work. It's just part of my life, right? So I do have a strong work ethic. For me, I feel different if I don't work out in the morning. Like, I can feel it. And part of it is physiological. There are like scientific benefits to exercise, right? Like the neurological benefits, chemicals are released, serotonin, blah, blah, blah. Like you can read all that, but there's physical benefits. But I also think there's a psychological benefit of doing something hard that you didn't want to do. Because nobody wants, listen, you don't get up at 4 and want to go on a long run. Nobody does, right? You want to lay in bed because it's comfortable, right? But if you do that, then that initial conquest sets the tone for the rest of your day. And I think it changes how you approach. It gives you confidence that you can do things you don't want to do or that seem hard. And if you do that every day, you build a habit. You build a habit, right? And then psychologically, when something else hard that you need to do pops up, you don't shrink away from it because you've built the habit of, yeah, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I think it's really powerful. I really do. I think, and it doesn't have to be running, but whatever it is, like do something, wake up and work out, do something. And I like physical challenges because anybody can do it, right? You know, anybody can go on a short run, anybody can lift a few weights, anybody can go cycling. Like there's something you can do, right? So it's, yeah, I find it beneficial. And I like to do it early because I like to start my work day early. So I need to get it done before I start, work stuff. I still deal with people in New York, the hedge funds in New York. So things start early. So that's what's behind the timing.
You talked earlier about, in terms of PF Chang's and leadership as a CEO, making things simple to get things rolling. I'm curious, when you're thinking about a personal habit, anybody listening who wants to start that habit, create that conquest early in the morning to start their day, are there lessons that you can apply from the CEO leadership world about making things simple that you could apply to like a personal habit, like getting up and running or getting up and exercising?
I got to tell you, these are excellent questions, right? These are excellent questions. So let me say this. I understand it's very difficult. And there's days where the last thing I want to do is get up and run. Maybe I had a long work day the day before and you just want to lay there. So it's not easy, but it can be done. And the way to do that is to break it down into simple tasks. So if you're waking up at 4 and you're like, I have to go run, 5 miles, that's going to seem hard and you're going to want to stay in bed. The way to trick yourself really is just get up and just make a cup of coffee. That's it. See, I'm going to get up and make a cup of coffee, right? Or I'm going to get up and whatever, if you're not a coffee drinker, just keep it simple, right? Just get out of bed, right? And then by the time you have a cup of coffee, going on a run is going to be, you feel fine. It's that first step is the hardest. It's like getting a boulder roll downhill. You need to get it started. Once you get out of bed and you make your cup of coffee, you're going to do the next thing, right? So don't give yourself like 8 things you need to do. I need to get out of bed and run and lift and do this and start work. It's like, no, just get out of bed, make a cup of coffee and just be up and then go, right? And before you know it, you'll be able to build that routine.
I'm a morning person, Damola, like you. And I remember in college, I was one of the students who liked the 8 a.m. classes. I felt like it was a good opportunity to get my day started. But there were some nights I was up late studying or out socializing. And I remember I started this tradition of putting my shoes at the door. Yeah. Because step one was just getting my feet into the shoes.
100%.
It wasn't walking up 20 minutes up a hill to class. Get your feet in the shoes.
There's tricks like that. You got to do. So I put my phone on a desk that's away from my bed. So when the alarm goes off, I got to walk anyways to turn it off, right? And then if I'm working out, I'll have my workout stuff right there. Just make it simple, right? Because when you're, that's your weakest point of the day, when you're just waking up. Like you're weak, right? Like you want to stay in bed, your mindset isn't there, you're groggy, right? So just make it simple, right? You walk over, turn off the alarm, stuff's right there, throw it on, make a cup of coffee. Next thing you know, you're ready to go, right?
Damola, I'm really enjoying our conversation. I'm curious. I mean, you talked about all the things that you've brought so much hard work and passion to over the course of your personal life, your life in athletics, and now professionally. When you really step back and think about it, where do you think the work ethic comes from?
I'm Nigerian and I moved here when I was young. I moved to the States when I was 9. So there's a cultural element for sure. There's an immigrant mentality for sure. When I moved to the country, my dad would always tell me, to an immigrant coming to America, America is the land of opportunity, and I think a lot of Americans kind of lose that because, Americans are used to how things are and they don't appreciate how wonderful it is here for most people in the world, right? But I've always had that appreciation and I've always felt like anything is possible, right? And I feel a sense of duty to my parents who moved us here, to my people who came before them, to my entire family to maximize the opportunity. I'm a very capable person and I've known that my whole life. So for me to not utilize that and try to make the most of it feels like a waste and feels like, I'm cheating myself and I'm cheating everybody who created these opportunities for me. There's never been a part of me that is comfortable just not going for things. Because America, you can go for anything here. Anything is possible here, right? So why not have big goals? And if you're a capable person, you want to use that, make an impact on the world because you can. If you don't think you're capable now, then become capable because that can be learned as well, right? Because you don't have to stay where you are, right? If you want to be better at things, you can be better at things. All skills can be learned. So it's natural to me, but if I had to break it down, I'd say that part of it is cultural. Part of it is my family's like that. My family, very smart people who work very hard. And then just having the experience of coming here at the age that I did and just having an appreciation for what can be accomplished here.
Damola, I couldn't agree more. Anything is possible. I think that duty that you talk about and the philosophy that anything is possible is so powerful.
A lot of people worked very hard for you to be here, for everybody, you know? A lot of people made a lot of sacrifices for you. That's the truth, right? No matter where you're from or who your parents are, you know, people did things for you to exist and for you to have the chances that you have, right? In my case, it's explicit because my dad had to make a decision and do all the things and make all the applications and take all the tests to move over. You know, he's a doctor, and it's very hard to move over as a doctor from Nigeria to the U.S. So it's obvious to me all the sacrifices that were made. But even if it's not that obvious, it's there, right? And you need to know that. And so then the question is, like, how do you reward that? You reward that by trying to reach your potential, or trying to make an impact, trying to be great. Whether if you shoot for being great and you don't quite reach all your goals, that's still a much better life than if you never tried, right? So I think that mentality is powerful, and it'll lead to a better life. It will. You'll be happier. You'll be more fulfilled if you are trying to do something and make an impact.
Damola, I have really enjoyed our conversation.
Good.
Just talking to you is making me hungry. I'm going to go there and order a Chang spicy chicken, which is my favorite dish at PF Chang's. And I hope one day in the near future we can have a conversation in person at a PF Chang's somewhere around the globe and just keep this conversation going. Damola, I have learned so much from you, and I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me this week. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tart pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetart.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today's a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.